Welcome back to the Crash Course Podcast. My name is Craig Crash Collins, joined as always by Brandon Scott. You know him as B. Scott. We're going to get into some draft conversation today, one of the best times of the year. We're going to talk which prospects should assume QB1 from day one. We're also going to tell you who some early Rookie of the Year candidates are, no matter where they fall. No matter where they go, if they will become an impact player. And then we're going to talk some draft sleepers before getting into our top 10 mock draft. So we're not going to do a mock draft for the whole NFL draft, but we are going to give you our top 10 picks. So, and honestly, this year's draft's going to be a lot of fun. And, a lot of times, you have drafts where, I think it's especially fun because of how many great quarterbacks there are. Because I'll tell you what, I was not hyped at all for like 2 years ago when it was Kenny Pickett and then the field. And so the fact that you have all these different scenarios and did the Vikings trade up? Did the Broncos trade up? Where does everything fall? It's gonna be really exciting come Thursday.
Yeah, have you heard the latest rumor?
No.
I don't know how much stock to put into this rumor, but apparently the Chicago Bears are considering taking J.J. McCarthy, number 1 overall.
Ooh.
Apparently they are really high on him. I don't know if there's any fire with this smoke or if this is just J.J. McCarthy's agent trying to boost his stock.
Yeah. And you never know if
the Bears, I don't think the Bears have been 100% sold on Caleb Williams, but they are showing that, they're definitely taking a quarterback after they traded Justin Fields away.
Yeah.
So
I think I heard somebody mention this on a podcast on the Ryan Russillo podcast to be exact, and they were like, they should have kept Justin Fields. They should have had then they should have drafted their quarterback, had him sit for however long behind Fields, and then that way, because Fields showed flashes at times, so at least in that instance. In that instance, you would have okay, we don't have to totally give up on Fields, but we do draft his backup and potential, replacement. So either we're going to have Fields step it up a notch, or we're going to get our quarter. No matter what, we're going to end up with the quarterback that we thought we were getting a couple years ago when we drafted Fields.
Wouldn't it have been interesting though if they gave Fields that chance and drafted Marvin Harrison Jr. number 1 overall, and then went and drafted one of the many top 10, top 15 worthy offensive tackles to bolster the offensive line?
They could have gone that route, or heck, if you could have gone all in on weapons and been like, "Hey, we're gonna draft Marvin Harrison Jr. and then we're gonna draft Brock Bowers
and Brock Bowers."
Yeah, and just.
But they have a.
Their tight end's fine.
Tight end.
I don't remember their name, but they have a decent tight end. Cole Kmet, that's right.
Kmet?
That's right. Yeah, Cole Kmet. Good call. Because I was like, I'm spacing right now. It's not Greg Olsen. Hasn't been for a time. That's the last tight end I remember. That's the first tight end that came to mind.
They have some good weapons. They already have some good weapons. So, if you added Marvin Harrison Jr. to it, maybe Justin Fields performs for you. I don't know. I'll just say this. I am not 100% sold on Caleb Williams. There have been many red flags that have shot up over the last year for me in regards to him. But I will say I still took him number 1 in my mock draft just because it's like
it's probably going to happen.
Yeah.
And we'll get into it here in a second, but I do think Williams will be okay. I don't necessarily buy into the whole next Patrick Mahomes hype. And I think that's probably why. I think that's why, some people, and I'm not saying it's you, but some people aren't sold on him just because since it feels like for a while now, ever since that Heisman Trophy winning season, everyone's been like, he's the next Patrick Mahomes. He's the next Patrick Mahomes. And I personally don't see that. I don't think, it's not that I don't think he can be a great quarterback, but we're literally comparing Patrick Mahomes to Tom Brady. So you have Tom Brady, who's the GOAT. Then you have Patrick Mahomes, who can be like, okay, he's the active GOAT. And then you're going to you're saying we're going to have two Tom Brady's in the league at the same time. I don't think that's going to happen. So, I mean, he could be good. I think he will be good. I don't think he's going to be the next Patrick Mahomes.
See, and I'm not worried that. So my concern is, I guess we'll get into it. We're going to get into talk about these quarterbacks here. I don't want to jump the gun.
Yeah. I mean, looking at, we already mentioned how the Bears have 2 picks. How the first round on Thursday is going to be interesting. How that goes. The NFL draft does get underway on Thursday. 3 teams have multiple first round picks. The Bears pick one. The Bears have picks 1 and 9. The Arizona Cardinals have picks 4 and 27. The Minnesota Vikings have picks 11 and 23. There's rumors that they may try to move up. According to FanSided, 3 teams have 11 total picks in this year's draft: Arizona, Green Bay, and Los Angeles. The Chicago Bears have the least amount of picks with 4, so they'll be half done after Thursday, which, heck, I was thinking about it today. I'd almost rather that be the case. If you can tell me I can be done picking by early Friday, sold. I mean, obviously it would take some years to like align that. You couldn't do that every year, but I definitely like that's not the worst situation you could have with only having 4 picks. The record for most quarterbacks selected in the top 10 in a single draft is 4. It happened twice, most recently in 2018. The record for the first round is 6 back in 1983. I bring that up because this year's draft is very quarterback heavy, and one or both of those records could go down. So as we get into our NFL draft preview, we're going to talk about these quarterbacks in a game that I like to call, first time we've done this on the show, it's called Start, Sit, or Trade, where I'm going to name 3 quarterback prospects. You tell me which could/should start right away, who could benefit the most from sitting, and who we may soon see on the trading block. So I kind of just went in order of the prospects. I tried to big brain it and try to be smarter than I am and be like, well, let's try to do some different groupings to see. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to end up with like some bizarre things. So let's just go in order. So in order of where they're kind of projected, the first 3 quarterbacks for start, sit, trade is Caleb Williams out of USC, Drake May out of UNC, and Jaden Daniels out of LSU. And so for me, it's going to be start Caleb Williams, sit Jaden Daniels, and trade Drake May. And the reason why I have it that way, I start Caleb Williams because I do think that the gap between Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams is closer than some may think. Like I said, I don't really buy into the whole Caleb Williams is the next Patrick Mahomes thing. I think you could, if the Bears drafted Jaden Daniels, I think that's almost just as solid in my opinion. I think both of those guys could pan out, about the same. Caleb Williams, though, does come from a system under Lincoln Riley that has produced Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts. Baker Mayfield got his first start in week 4 of his rookie season. Kyler started right away, and Jalen Hurts sat until December of his rookie season. So it's funny that I say start for him because in theory, the most successful of those 3 quarterbacks is Hurts, and he sat the longest. So like I said, the argument for sitting him gets a little bit stronger, but I kind of, with this first group especially, I did a little bit of metagaming, and I was like, well, there's nobody for Caleb Williams to sit behind, so he has to start. So that kind of is what gives me the edge. But again, I mean, Lincoln Riley has produced more NFL caliber quarterbacks here recently with, like I said, Mayfield, Murray, and Hurts. So to come from that pedigree, I think that gives him a little bit of a leg up to be able to jump in right away and be successful. I say sit Jaden Daniels. Again, the gap between him and Caleb Williams is really close. NFL.com has Caleb Williams draft grade at 6.74. Jaden Daniels draft grade at 6.73. So they're real close. And there's a good chance Jaden Daniels ends up in Washington. That's what I've seen in nearly every mock draft I've seen. Cliff Kingsbury is the new offensive coordinator, who of course coached another Heisman Trophy winner in Kyler Murray. And I've seen some comparisons. Speaking of quarterbacks that he could compare to, I've seen Jaden Daniels compared to Lamar Jackson, who of course did sit for a time behind Joe Flacco. Though who knows if he'll actually sit, because Marcus Mariota is currently listed as the starter. Marcus Mariota has been the placeholder before. See what he did in Atlanta a couple of years ago in front of Desmond Ridder. So there's a chance he could be the starter. I think Washington should have kept Sam Howell, because he showed, heck, for a time at least, he led the league in passing yards. Like he'd had a decent year, to say the least. So you could have kind of bided your time with sitting Daniels, but regardless, that's not the case. I do go Daniels over May, though, because to transfer to the SEC and put up the numbers that he did and win the Heisman is really impressive. Jaden Daniels and LSU finished stronger than May and UNC, so that's another reason why he gets the edge. So what Jaden Daniels was able to do, transferring to the SEC, being so successful, having 40 touchdowns and literally 4 picks in his final year, winning the Heisman, that's truly insane. And then last but not least, trade Drake May. Unlike Daniels, May regressed in his final season in college. In 2022, May completed 66% of his passes for 4,321 yards, 38 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. In 2023, he completed 63% of his passes for 3,608 yards, 24 touchdowns, 9 picks. So the interceptions went up, the touchdowns and yardage went down, as well as the completion percentage. So, the quarterback of this group with the least amount of starting experience, whose numbers got worse last year, that doesn't inspire a lot of confidence in me. So I've got start Caleb Williams, sit Jaden Daniels, trade Drake May.
All right, so I kind of took this exercise as if I was a GM myself and I had all 3 of these guys on my roster. All right. I'm actually starting Drake May. I like the intangibles there. Drake May hasn't always had the best talent around him. You look at the year that he statistically had his best season, his go-to wide receiver was Josh Downs, who is now with the Indianapolis Colts. This past year, he had Montez Walker, who
did miss some time too. So that's part of it.
So, the talent just wasn't around him compared to, let's say, Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels had Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr., who, oh, by the way, led the SEC in touchdown receptions. It's a little tough. And then, Caleb Williams, I don't think the talent around him this past season was as good as it was during his Heisman campaign either.
No Jordan Addison.
No, yeah, definitely no Jordan Addison. That's a big one.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm starting Drake May. I love the arm strength that he has. The fact that he was able to put up the numbers were consistent. There wasn't a huge drop off. They were consistent with different levels of talent around him. And it's North Carolina. They're not attracting high end caliber guys at wideout or anything like LSU or USC are. Their war chest, even for NIL for football, probably isn't nearly as close as it is to those 2 others. So I really liked what he was able to do. I think the leadership qualities are there. I think any other year, Drake May is your number 1 overall pick. I really like him. I'm sitting Jaden Daniels, mostly because I feel like he's going to need a little. He's had one really, really good year, and I think he needs a little bit of time to kind of settle in. And he's not going to exactly have Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. to throw to this year, depending on who he goes to. If he goes to the Commanders, talent, I mean, it's not great. It's definitely not the same,
I
do like the
Austin Eckler.
comparisons.
They got who's a good receiving running back. They also have Terry McLaurin too. So I mean,
yes,
they got some pieces.
Yes, and so I do like Jaden Daniels. I think the potential there's a ton of potential there. I would hitch my wagon to him as well, because I feel like out of the past Heisman Trophy winners, he's not super flashy, and it's just kind of he puts his head down and gets it done. I really like that part of him, and the comparisons to Lamar Jackson are great, and I can see that. You when people are comparing like Caleb Williams to Patrick Mahomes, you're like, I don't see it. I can see Jaden Daniels too. Oh gosh, yeah, too many names are flying through my head. So I'm sitting Jaden Daniels, and I'm trading Caleb Williams. It is really concerning how much of a drop off he had from his Heisman campaign to last year. And at times, it wasn't just, the talent's not around him. It's not as good of a team. At times, he just looked 100% disinterested.
Pac-12 was better too.
Yeah, I mean, that game against Notre Dame was an eye opener for me. His body language throughout that, he looked like he threw in the towel to me. And I don't know. And once the potential or the possibility of winning a second Heisman was out the window after that game, you just didn't feel that he was fully invested. And then when you hear the rumors of his dad saying he's only going to go to a team if they offer him a partial ownership, and here's the list of teams that he'll play for, and it's just like there's some red flags that fly up there, and I really don't know if I want that in my locker room. Not to say that he's a red flag, but maybe the people around him are red flags. And that's, to me, that's really concerning. It's one thing if like, oh, his buddy from high school is putting out this list. Okay, are you really in the know or what? But his dad coming out and saying it's just kind of like, to me, the fact that from what I saw from him body language wise, if it doesn't go right immediately, he could get disinterested. He could be just constantly thinking about that next contract. I don't know. It just feels like this has the potential to be a bust of a pick. I just, it's in my gut that I feel that, and, I believe Chicago is going to take him number 1 overall, but I'm not 100%. If the Colts were in that position, I would hope and pray that the Colts would go with either Jaden Daniels or Drake May if they needed a quarterback, or if not, then take Marvin Harrison Jr. number 1 overall.
Yeah, but, come on. If they had the number 1 overall pick, if they didn't go Marvin Harrison Jr., I don't care if they don't have a quarterback. They're getting Marvin Harrison Jr. No, and I mean that's
Sam Ehlinger will be a quarterback.
That's fine. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, because I don't remember, was the Notre Dame game, was that his first loss of the season last year for USC? I can't remember either.
Year, his first loss of the season.
No, yeah. Not. I was gonna say not his first overall loss, but like, but no. I was
awful.
Well, the reason why I was asking that is because, like, once you, like you said, the Heisman, and then you think about it, with as good as the Pac-12 was last year, like, are you thinking one loss might keep you out of the college football playoff? Like, as the college football playoff hopes started to dwindle and they lost more games, so I mean. You never know what the motivations or lack of motivations might be, but I mean it's a fair assessment to draw, because you kind of thought like, man, what is causing things to just kind of be as bad as they got. It can't just be no Jordan Addison. It can't just be the Pac-12 being better. But we'll see.
There was even talk at that point that he may sit out the rest of the season and prepare for the draft. It was like, man, if these rumors are true and you are considering this, you are quitting on your team. Okay, I'm not going to get into the, sitting out a meaningless bowl game to prepare for the draft or stay healthy, that whatever, but just I'm done with the season.
Yeah, when your team's still in it to do other things.
Yeah.
So absolutely fair. So we'll see. I like I said, I don't buy into the Patrick Mahomes stuff, but we'll see what happens. And like I said, it's pretty much a foregone conclusion. It's going to be him round 1, pick 1 to the Bears. So the second grouping of quarterbacks, I've got J.J. McCarthy out of Michigan, Bo Nix out of Oregon, and Michael Penix Jr. out of Washington. And I'm actually starting Michael Penix Jr., not just because I got to see him in person this past year, not just for that reason.
You got to see Bo Nix too.
That is true. I can't really say that, can I? Because I got to see Bo Nix as well in person. So I mean, Penix's numbers at Washington were insane if you dig into them. I mean, 2 seasons of 4,500 plus yards. He was consistently at 65% completions, 31 touchdowns in 2022, 36 last year. He I think for the longest time had like a stretch of like, almost every game was a 300-yard game for him, compared to J.J. McCarthy, who never threw for more than 3,000 yards in a season. 22 touchdowns each of the last 2 seasons. Now, it's funny because I think this will actually, with how everything's being predicted, I think this will be reversed. I think J.J. McCarthy's going to start right away, and Penix will sit, and I have McCarthy sitting and Penix starting. But I bring up the numbers because what Penix was asked to do in college is similar to what he will be asked to do in the NFL, with how much he was throwing. Maybe not quite as much as he was throwing. He'll probably be asked to hand the ball off a little bit more, but like he already has the workload, which may concern some people, but he's got the workload on the arm. He's experienced in what he'll be asked to do, as opposed to J.J. McCarthy, who, hey, no knock against him. I think they'll both be, I think I like them both as quarterbacks. But I mean, J.J. McCarthy, a lot of times, see the second half of the Penn State game where they just were like, hey, we're just going to hand it off the whole time, which, I mean, look, you got to, you're asked to do what you're asked to do. But at the same time, they're not going to dial up a bunch of throws just so J.J. McCarthy can impress scouts. But like, it's just, I think that Penix, because of what he was asked to do at Washington, got him maybe a little bit more ready. Whereas like, I haven't seen McCarthy do quite enough just from him as an individual standpoint, with Michigan. But Penix is also projected to go in the mid-late first round, where the talent around him may be more suitable for him to start right away. That's another kind of thought that I had where I'm like, he's not going to go to the Patriots, who you mean he could, I guess, but he's likely not to go to the Patriots, who don't really have a lot there for him. He's not likely to go to, the Commanders. He's not going to go to, he could go to Oakland. I've seen that a few times, but even if he goes there, he's got Devontae Adams to throw to. So I mean, I think he will be I think he'll open some eyes if he does get to start this year. I'm going to sit J.J. McCarthy, as I said a little bit earlier. It does seem silly, but I just think that McCarthy will be asked to do more than he ever did in college, and that just kind of leaves some to the imagination of like, what is he going to look like? So I go with McCarthy there. He is projected to go top 10, and I think he can be good in the NFL. It's just there's an element of the unknown that worries me. I'm really excited. Stay tuned for next week when we do our draft recap. If he goes to the Vikings, I think that'll be a good mix. I really do. If he ends up going to the Vikings, like he's been projected in a few different areas. So if he goes to the Vikings, I think that'll be a really good fit for him. But we'll see. And then I'm trading Bo Nix. Last season was the best season for Bo Nix. 77% completion, 4,500 yards, 45 touchdowns. Those were all career highs. 3 interceptions, also tied for a career best. Was the big jump last season the norm, or will he regress? That's the question. I think Nix might be one of those people that it'll take maybe a stop or two for him to catch on, even as a backup. So I like all three of these quarterbacks, so it pains me to have to file them into different categories. Not to say that I don't think Bo Nix should start right away. That's not what I'm saying. But I just I don't want Bo Nix. If I had Bo Nix, I wouldn't want to trade him. But that's just kind of where he falls in this exercise.
For me, I'm starting JJ McCarthy. Consistently, he was a winner. Consistently. Not that Michael Penix Jr. was not. He was. He made probably the best decision of his career, and he got out of a losing situation and got himself into a winning situation where he, could thrive, meaning transferred from IU to Washington following Kalen DeBoer. But I'm not going to look at the numbers because trying to compare JJ McCarthy's numbers to Michael Penix Jr.'s numbers is like really comparing apples to oranges because it's two totally different systems. Look, Washington's system was air it out. We are going to be throwing it all over the field, high paced, high octane offense, score a lot of points. Michigan's system was control the ball, play sturdy, stout, hard-nosed defense, have a good run game, and have a quarterback that can manage the game wisely, make the throws when he needs to make them. So that the systems were totally different. But the reason I think the difference between McCarthy and Penix Jr. is not that much. But the reason I start JJ McCarthy and I sit Michael Penix Jr. is because of Michael Penix Jr.'s injury history. He was banged up even in the national championship game. So if you want to get the best version of him, sitting him is the best option. Allow his body to heal. Give him a little bit more time to get over his numerous injuries that he's had in college. So that's why I start JJ McCarthy. That's why I sit Michael Penix Jr. And I'm trading Bo Nix. Bo Nix is a good quarterback, but I'm afraid somebody's going to take him way too high. Some quarterback thirsty team is going to take him in the first round.
Could be Blake Bortles.
Yeah, exactly. It's that. Blaine Gabbert-esque. It's just. Everybody's like, but he put up big numbers at Oregon. Again, it's the style of offense that Oregon plays. Required him to throw it around a lot more. And I don't know. Michael Penix Jr. was even a really good quarterback at Indiana, whereas Bo Nix was okay at Auburn.
Yeah.
And, so at least, Michael Penix Jr. showed that consistency from a not great situation into a great situation. And, Bo Nix went from a good situation to another good situation. He did improve. I will give him that. But still, I'm not 100% sold on him, so I would trade him.
You know what thought I just had that I love, and I'm going to be really depressed when it doesn't happen? I would love to see Bo Nix get drafted by the Rams. They've got the draft capital to move up. And not to say they have to move up like tremendously. Well, they might because he's projected to go in the first round. But they've got the draft capital, which oddly enough, look, we're a couple years removed from them like not having a first round pick, for 3 consecutive years. But like, get him with Sean McVay. Get him with somebody. Now, granted, he is there are some people projecting him to go to the Broncos. He's got Sean Payton there. But like, if he were to go to like a New Orleans, sit behind Derek Carr. If he were to go to LA, sit behind Matthew Stafford for the rest of his career, like, and have Sean McVay as his guy, like, I think that could work. I really love that idea. I'm going to be really sad when Bo Nix goes to like some situation he has no business. He's like, because like I said, it's going to take a couple stops. I'm about to sneeze. I'm trying to suppress it. All right, I think we tackled it. Good. All right. I was like, man, you're coughing, I'm sneezing. This is the sickness pod right now. But no, I like, so yeah, but you're right. I mean, someone's gonna draft him to be there, like, because they're gonna be like, oh crap, there's no Jaden Daniels on the board anymore. There's no Drake May. What do we do? Bo Nix. And not to say that he can't rise to the occasion. He can. We saw it last year, but he's gonna be asked to do, I think, too much depending on where he goes. Like he could end up on a team that's gonna ask him to do more than I think he's capable of doing this early in his career. That, like, I mean, heck, as early as you can get in his career. It hasn't even started yet. So yeah, we'll see. But I want all three of those quarterbacks to succeed. Not that I don't want any of the other ones to not succeed, but I just like all three of those. Guys.
Yeah, those. I mean, I don't want to take anything away from Bo Nix because look, he has the tools to be a successful NFL quarterback. But compared to JJ McCarthy and Michael Penix Jr., I got to go with the other two. Now, watch. I would not be the least bit surprised if Michael Penix Jr. has the best career out of those three, that grouping. His size, I mean, he's kind of got all the intangibles that you want. But I also, at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if JJ McCarthy stumbles. So there's a lot of interesting here as far as that group goes. That group could be all over the map, and that group could also end up being your best
of the
trio of all the quarterbacks in this draft. And there is one other quarterback, though, that I believe is going to have a really good career that people are overlooking right now.
Is he in this last grouping?
He's in this grouping.
Okay, yeah. I was going to say, yeah. So last grouping here, we've got Spencer Rattler out of South Carolina, Michael Pratt out of Tulane, and Jordan Travis out of Florida State. For me, I've got start Jordan Travis, sit Spencer Rattler. It's close, and I know that Rattler is projected higher, but looking at it's real weird because I looked at NFL.com's rating based on next-gen stats, and Jordan Travis is rated higher. So for whatever reason, he's projected to go in a later round, but is like the stats and the next-gen, all that analytics stuff has him rated higher. Makes no sense to me. So I went with my gut, which is Jordan Travis. While Spencer Rattler and Jordan Travis were both consistent in their production their last two seasons in college, Travis's numbers are slightly better. And I just have a hunch about Jordan Travis. So I'll give him the edge over Rattler. Although, hey, I would, like I said, wouldn't mind last week. I wouldn't mind the Colts getting Travis. I wouldn't mind if they drafted Spencer Rattler. Either of those guys, I think, could develop into some, a decent quarterback. And then I'm going to trade Michael Pratt. According to NFL.com's analysis, Pratt struggles with accuracy and currently lacks the field awareness to beat coverage, meaning he'll struggle to earn even a backup job. That was their kind of analysis of him. I know he had that awesome run bringing Tulane to the Cotton Bowl and beating USC. But I think it's just kind of a 50-50 flip of the coin with, some of the mid-major guys work out, some of them don't. But I just went ahead and said trade to Michael Pratt. I think he's going to be a little bit more of a developmental project. And like I said with Bo Nix, I mean, he's going to need the right situation to click, and that may take a few stops.
Yeah, I'm 100% in agreement with you on this trio. Start Jordan Travis, sit Spencer Rattler, and trade Michael Pratt. I mean, there's really not much else. Look, in all the mock drafts I've run through for the Colts or whatever, if Jordan Travis is sitting there at a certain point, I grab him because I think he would be the perfect backup for Anthony Richardson. And if Anthony Richardson goes down with an injury, I don't think the Colts would miss a beat with having Jordan Travis there. So, yeah, there's really not much else to add on to that one, just because, I mean, Spencer Rattler, I think it's closer to Spencer Rattler and Michael Pratt being able to flip-flop in this group. But, Spencer Rattler has more of a consistent career. It hasn't always been the greatest. I mean, look, he at one point beat out Caleb Williams for a starting spot.
Right.
So there's something there.
Right. He's a wild card because, I mean, like you said, he replaced Caleb. He started over Caleb Williams in Lincoln Riley's system. I mean, we talked about Lincoln Riley and his effect, having all these quarterbacks in the NFL. I mean, he at one point was rated above Caleb Williams, but at the same time he leaves to go to South Carolina. And so because he lost the starting job, but also like, okay, well that doesn't, okay, so does that mean he's going to, be successful or fail? And he had that great run at the end of the season a couple of years ago where they beat Tennessee and they beat Clemson. And then this, and then they were in the Gator Bowl against Notre Dame. And then I don't think they were kind of middle of the road this year. You just never know. But
their fans were very much let down. The South Carolina fans were coming into this season riding high, thinking this is going to be a good year, and then it was.
You know what? Good. They weren't
football.
They weren't kind to us in our preview of that bowl game between them and Notre Dame, so they get what they get. But no. But yeah, I think I really like Jordan Travis. If the Colts are, I mean, I don't know that they will, but I think that they should draft Jordan Travis. I've got a lot of. I think whoever gets him will have a darn good backup and someone who could eventually develop into a starter. So moving away from the quarterbacks a little bit, I wanted to just kind of go in generalities here. I don't know if that's a word, but it is now. The first thing I wanted to look at is which prospect will have an instant impact no matter where they're drafted. And doing this exercise with this draft class almost seems unfair, because there's so many names that you could list. And I think there's a lot of guys, especially in the first round, who will have an instant impact. I originally had Brock Bowers here. He's being compared to George Kittle, and what team couldn't use a George Kittle on their team? You could go any of the quarterbacks projected in the first round. I wanted to not go wide receiver, but I ended up going with a wide receiver. You could go with any of the names, with any number of names. So I went ahead and I went Malik Neighbors. For starters, when you're drawing comparisons to Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, and you come from a program that not only produced them, but also names like Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry. I mean, the wide receivers that have come through LSU have just been phenomenal, and they've all had I wasn't sure if I wanted to mention him with like the Odell and Jarvis Landry's of the NFL, but I mean even guys like DJ Chark. I mean, there's some guys that have had some solid seasons or have been good that have come out of LSU. You might wonder why I went Neighbors and not Marvin Harrison Jr., because originally I thought about going Harrison Jr. as well. Neighbors had more catches, more receiving yards, the same amount of touchdowns as Harrison last year, and is graded higher according to Pro Football Focus. Now, Neighbors had a Heisman Trophy winner throwing him the football, not Kyle McCord. But I'll also make the argument that since he's projected to be drafted after Harrison, he'll be, in theory, in a place with a better quarterback throwing to him this year as well, heightening the chances that he'll put up numbers. Again, I don't think you could go wrong with any name that you mention here, but I do think Malik Neighbors is going to add his name to the long list of great LSU receivers that made it in the NFL.
So this one's a tough one. So I guess outside of Marvin Harrison Jr., I mean, yeah, you're right with Malik Neighbors. Like looking at most mock drafts, or at least my mock draft, I have him going to the Chargers. So he's got a good quarterback there at least. But for me, I think the player that's going to have the biggest impact immediately. I mean, gosh, this one's tough. I think it has to go to Brock Bowers just because I feel like he is he's a different type of player. And, you know, I don't know. There's just something that my gut says it's going to be him. No matter what team he goes to, I feel like he's going to fit in and be a boost for that position for them or for their offense in general. I mean, the other player that stands out the most to me would probably be maybe Tyrion Arnold, cornerback out of Alabama. Look, everybody is in this draft saying Quinyon Mitchell, the corner out of Toledo, is most likely the number one corner in this draft. And he could be picked anywhere from the top 10 to the top 15 or even farther down. But, and I think that may be true as far as like athleticism and, size, all the numbers, all the intangibles stand out. And he had a great Senior Bowl, everything like that. But I think the level of play, the level of talent that he faced week after week after week in the MAC is on a much lower level than what Terrion Arnold was seeing in the SEC with Alabama. So that's why I think Terrion Arnold is one of those players that's going to come in and have an immediate impact for his team, no matter who drafts him. And he's one of those guys that I think I've even had to the Colts. And I think he would be a day one starter.
Yeah, it'd be really good to have him. And I'm with you on Brock Bowers too. I shied away from him because it's funny. Like I was like, you look at the tight ends that have come out of the draft. I mean, you've got Kittle, who was awesome, and like and I psyched myself out because of instant impact. Because in my brain, I was like, okay, because like Sam Laporta last year had an amazing year. I don't know where he ended up as far as like rookie of the year voting. Probably not like close to the top, but I mean, as a tight end, if you're gonna get even some kind of votes, I think that's good. And I was like, well, he wasn't drafted in the first round. And then I was like, okay, well, what about first round tight ends? The impact of Kyle Pitts was an impact right away, but he hasn't done much since. The other tight ends drafted in the first round haven't done a whole lot. So I psyched myself out. But like the thing is, with tight ends, you can have a middle of the road tight end and be fine. So to add a tight end like Brock Bowers, that's what makes me think like, yeah, no matter what team he goes to, you're upgrading that position and making it even better because you basically have a wide receiver as a tight end.
Right. Yeah. So that's why because I feel like he's going to be an impact no matter what. That's why I'm looking at Terrion Arnold as somebody outside of like duh.
Right. So looking at sleepers, I broke mine into a couple. I'm looking at first round. I'm looking at day 2 and 3 as well. And when I think of sleepers, at least the way that I'm doing it for this exercise, I'm going the route more of like who's going to be drafted like lower, and then like, but we're gonna look back at that draft and we're gonna say, wow, this guy was picked ahead of him. This guy was picked ahead of him. Those guys didn't pan out, but man, he was picked down in this part of the draft, and he should have. If we redraft it in 3 years, they may be towards the top. They may be much higher than what they were originally drafted. So that's what I'm thinking of when I think sleepers. So I mean, because I think I picked some guys that may not be considered sleepers by some of the experts because they're still pretty decently well known, but I just think that they'll outperform where they're going to get drafted. And my first round sleeper is edge rusher Chop Robinson out of Penn State. He's ranked as the 5th edge rusher according to PFF, projected to go late in the first round. NFL.com has his player comp as another Penn State product, Micah Parsons, who, by the way, was ranked 9th in NFL's top 100 going into last season. He was the 2021 Defensive Rookie of the Year, 2-time first-team All-Pro. All edge rushers in the top 5. Of all the edge rushers in the top 5, Robinson has the best comps besides Liatu Latu, who's drawing comparisons to TJ Watt. But while every edge prospect at the top needs work, the fact that Chop Robinson is projected to be drafted at the end of day 1 means there's a sliver of a chance he could go day 2. And I think that he's a lot better than that. So if he's projected where if he's drafted where he's projected or lower, I think he'll be looked back on as a steal. So I think Chop Robinson is a sleeper just in the standpoint of he's projected to go lower in the first round, could potentially bleed into day 2, and if he's drafted anywhere around that, I think that we'll look back on this and be like, why was he not a top 15, top 20 pick? As far as day 2 and 3, again, I go with a guy who I've seen him projected in the first round. I've seen him projected in the second and third round, but I think he'll be good regardless. And that's Florida State wide receiver Keon Coleman. He was projected mid first round going into December, and for a time was considered one of the top receivers in the class. But his stock dropped off tremendously. The NFL mock draft database has his first round probability right now at 50%, with him as a consensus second rounder. His numbers did fall off a bit as the season came to a conclusion last year, but he's got great size. He has excellent hands, and I think in the right situation, he could be regarded as one of the best receivers to come out of this class. So I know a lot of people are fawning over like Xavier Legette. I've seen a lot of Ladd McConkey and Adonai Mitchell being projected ahead of him, but I think he may be, I don't want to say he's in the Malik Neighbors category, but I think he can end up in that like tier 2 Brian Robinson category. So I think Keon Coleman, like I said, it doesn't feel like a great sleeper just because it's not like, oh, this guy's projected to go in the 7th round and he'll be worth, he will end up being worth the 4th round. Like he will produce numbers like a 4th rounder did. Like, no, it's not that level, but I think he will be drafted lower than what he'll ultimately produce in the NFL.
So looking at my first round sleeper, I don't know how many times I have to scream his name from the top of my lungs, but for some reason he's starting to fall on draft boards again. But that is wide receiver Brian Thomas Jr. out of LSU. Look, his hands are good. He's got a nose for the ball. What else I've said it all. He scores a lot. He puts up high numbers of receptions. He's big. He's got good speed. He's just kind of what you want in a wide receiver. Taking Marvin Harrison Jr. out of the equation, because that's a generational type talent. Brian Thomas Jr. has the potential to be the best wide receiver in this class, in my opinion, outside of Marvin Harrison Jr. So he is my ultimate sleeper because he's falling for some reason on draft boards. Right now he's like mid 20s. He's definitely late first round. And it's like, are you kidding? I guess it has to do with like what team needs are around different areas. But man, this is a player that I would love on my roster. Outside of that, day 2 or 3, Georgia cornerback Kamari Lassiter is somebody that really stands out to me. Look, we all know the history of Georgia defensive players in the NFL. They have a good track record. And because Georgia did not have the season that they thought they were going to have by the standards that they have set, I think some of their players are dropping. because of that. I like his size. I like he's kind of got all the intangibles that you want in a corner, but he didn't grade out as well in the testing as some other people. But the fact that he was a starting corner for Georgia, and he had to face off against some really good wide receivers week in and week out. I think he has a potential to be somebody that is a sneaky good pick days 2 or 3. The other one would be, I think, I'm going to sound like a homer, but Purdue running back Tyrone Tracy, just because he doesn't have the wear and tear on his body like most running backs do, but he's also going to be that really good special teamer for you. He's going to be that running back that can step out into the slot and be a good pass catching option out of the backfield. He's just going to be kind of one of those players that can fit just anywhere on your offense. And to me, it's people haven't compared him to this, which I'm kind of surprised. But to me, he's like Nyheim Hines that played for the Colts for so many years. One of those guys that he's not going to light you up running between the tackles. Get him out on the edge. You better be ready. And if he's rolling out and catching passes, he's dangerous there as well. So I think those are two guys, days 2 and 3. I think Kamari Lassiter is your day 2 guy, and Tyrone Tracy is your day 3.
Hey, look, I was going to be disappointed if you didn't mention Tyrone Tracy, so I'm glad that you did. And I think you're absolutely right, because a lot of running backs already have, taken that wear and tear of a few years in college, and he at least doesn't have that much on there.
He's been a running back for 1 year, one season.
Right. And to be considered in the draft and off that 1 year is pretty impressive. Yeah. So before we get out of here, we want to do our top 10 mock draft. B. Scott, do you want to do this pick by pick, or do you want me to go and then you to go? We'll do some production on the fly here.
Oh, you go, then I go. That's what we did last week, so let's stick with a proven formula.
Okay, sounds good. Plus, I mean, you came prepared. I did not I did not do a picture of mine, so y'all are just gonna have to commit it to memory as we go through it. We've got visual aids for B. Scott. So my mock draft. Look, I did this last night at like past 12 a.m. So I was feeling a little froggy in some areas. So we'll go from there. So pick one. Don't worry, didn't go too crazy off the reservation here. The Bears select USC quarterback Caleb Williams. He's looked to be the pick for the Bears the whole way. He's from that Lincoln Riley pedigree that I mentioned earlier, which gives me some extra confidence in him. So Caleb Williams goes first overall to the Bears. Pick 2, the Commanders select LSU quarterback Jaden Daniels. Even though it didn't quite work out in the end, I love the pairing of Kingsbury and Daniels. There's a lot of fun pieces. It didn't work out in the end for Kingsbury and Kyler Murray, but I do like the pairing of Daniels and Kingsbury because Daniels has a similar play style. I do think the Commanders' offense will be fun to watch next season. You've got, like I said, you've got Austin Eckler. They added they didn't add Terry McLaurin. They've got Terry McLaurin. They added Austin Eckler. They've got, I think, Zach Ertz is there. So it could get fun. It could get fun. So we'll see what happens. Pick number 3. The Patriots select North Carolina quarterback Drake May. The Pats need a quarterback, and May is the best still available. At one point, there was a question of if he could be the first overall pick, and if the Pats can tap into that, who knows? Who knows what we'll be able to see. Here's where I started getting a little froggy. Pick 4, the Arizona Cardinals select LSU wide receiver Malik Nabers. I was feeling froggy, as I mentioned before. The Cards need a receiver, and Harrison is probably the best pick here. However, I'll take a flyer on Jaden Daniels' play style being similar to what Kyler Murray has, and that being kind of the thought process behind selecting Nabers here. He's played with a quarterback with a similar play style to Jaden Daniels to Kyler Murray. So let's go with I don't necessarily think Neighbors and Harrison are like super interchangeable, but I think there's an argument to be made of him being drafted, maybe potentially ahead of Harrison. So I've got Malik Neighbors going to the Cardinals at 4 with that pick. And then pick 5, the Chargers go with Ohio State wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. LA needs a wide receiver. They got rid of Keenan Allen. They got rid of Mike Williams. They're going to need a generational talent like Marvin Harrison Jr. to step in and be that target for Justin Herbert. So that'll be a lot of fun. Pick number 6. Michigan quarterback J.J. McCarthy goes to the Giants. One mock draft I saw had the Giants trading up for McCarthy. Another said that if he's still available, he could be the next in line to replace Daniel Jones. If it's those rumors that have me going McCarthy here and not going tackle, just because they are so high on McCarthy and Daniels. I mean, it was a rough year last year. I know Daniel Jones was hurt for a time last year, but they may be thinking that they're going to go in a different direction. I don't love this for McCarthy because this is a situation that's kind of been a little dysfunctional. There's no more Saquon Barkley. But the wide receiver class is deep enough that they could get someone that could change my mind on that. So they could draft McCarthy, and then I'm sure Roman Wilson is projected to go in some of the second and third rounds, probably second. They could grab him there. So that's a thought process that could happen. So McCarthy goes to the Giants and with the 6th overall pick. Pick 7. The Titans select Notre Dame offensive tackle Joe Alt. This seems like a pretty safe bet that Alt goes here. I pulled up 3 mock drafts during this exercise. All have Alt going, or all have Tennessee taking a tackle, and that's where they have Joe Alt going. Tackle is the top need for Tennessee, and the Irish have produced some pretty darn good offensive linemen over the years. So Joe Alt goes to the Titans. Pick 8, the Falcons select UCLA edge rusher Laiatu Latu. Atlanta needs an edge rusher, and I think Latu is the best in the draft. Dude was an absolute monster for the Bruins last season. He was 3rd in the nation in sacks with 13. He had 2 picks on the year as well. His NFL.com comparison is TJ Watt, as I mentioned before. He may be my early favorite for defensive player of the year, or defensive rookie of the year if he goes here. And then here's the froggiest of all froggy picks here. So here's what I did, right? I picked the top 10, but there's a lot of, I picked, all the teams that drafted in the top 10 before I just started this mock draft simulator. So I wasn't in control of the other 22 teams because I was like, I want to get trade offers. Because not that I'm going to pull the trigger on anything and go completely off the reservation, but I was like, I really want, because there's a lot of talk of trades happening especially in this top 10. I mean, I know it happens every year, but especially with this year and the quarterbacks that we have, there's talk of Minnesota moving up. There's talk of Oakland moving up, or Oakland. There's talk of Las Vegas moving up. Oakland's moving. They're just all moving away. So I was like, I want there to be a possibility of a trade. I was offered 3 trades here for the 9th overall pick. And I thought this is a perfect place for the Bears to make a trade because they can still stay in the first round. They only have 4 picks, so maybe they add another one. Be like, all right, let's get 5. In retrospect, I really wish I would have gone because the Rams offered me a trade, and I said no. I really wish I would have taken it and then gone Bo Nix here. That's my after that. This is my minute 58 of the podcast change. The Rams select Bo Nix here because I really like that pairing for them. They won't do that. But what I ended up doing when I did this exercise last night, I was offered 3 trades. 1 from the Rams, 1 from the Steelers, 1 from the Dolphins. None of which I believed would actually move up here in real life. They really, this mock draft simulator really wanted the Bengals to trade up. I'm like, why? Why are the Bengals trading up? And so I was a little bit put off by that. So I ended up going with the Dolphins here. I had the Dolphins trading up to pick 9. I do think the Bears could pass on taking a wide receiver here because of the depth in this draft class with wide receiver. They add another pick due to their low draft capital this year. They in this scenario they received the 21st and 55th pick as well as Miami's second rounder next season. So they recoup some of the draft capital that they lost. Then that's when I forgot that I have trades, and I didn't choose to draft for any other team who didn't have a pick in the top 10. So the game selected Alabama cornerback Terrion Arnold, which I don't know why, because I don't think that's one of the needs for the Dolphins. But in the mocks I've looked at, the Finns have gone O-line here. So my official pick for this place is the Dolphins selecting Penn State offensive tackle. I'm going to butcher the heck out of this. Olumuyiwa Fashanu. With that pick there. So that's where the Dolphins go with that pick in pick 9. And then rounding out my top 10, at pick 10, I have the Jets selecting Washington wide receiver Rome Odunze. More often than not, I've seen the Jets projected to take an offensive lineman here, but I've also seen them go with Brock Bowers. That happening with Rome Odunze off the board in those scenarios. Should the Jets go O-line? Probably. But the ability to add Odunze to the arsenal they already have with Garrett Wilson and Mike Williams, that just might be too tantalizing, especially with the Bills trading Stephon Diggs. They may have the best wide receiver core in the AFC East, plus you're getting Aaron Rodgers back, so that may be too tempting for them to go there. So rounding out the top 10, Washington wide receiver Rome Odunze, he's going to the Jets.
So I will go ahead and say I did not do any trades because those are just too hard to try to figure out, predict. So number 1 overall, no surprise. We've talked about it at length. Number 1, the Bears select quarterback Caleb Williams out of USC. Where I kind of started differing, where at number 2, the Commanders, I have them actually taking Drake May, quarterback out of North Carolina. And then at number 3, I have the Patriots taking Jaden Daniels, quarterback out of LSU. That kind of just goes with my thought process of Drake May being I have good confidence in Drake May. Number 4, I think the Cardinals would be ridiculous to not make this pick, but I have them taking Marvin Harrison Jr. For some reason, a lot of people have Marvin going to the Chargers at 5. I actually have at 5 the Chargers taking wide receiver Malik Neighbors out of LSU. And then at 6 with the Giants, yeah, you're right. They need a quarterback. They're in a tough spot right now. So I actually have them drafting J.J. McCarthy quarterback out of Michigan. At number 7, the Tennessee Titans, like most people, actually everybody that I've seen, I have them taking Joe Alt, tackle out of Notre Dame. At number 8, the Falcons. Look, the Falcons could go a number of ways with a new coach, and it's just, I don't know. One of their needs was defense back, so I went with who many people are considering the best one in the draft, and I took Quinyon Mitchell, cornerback out of Toledo. At number 9, the Chicago Bears. They have some good talent, at good weapons for Caleb Williams, but they need to go out and get him some more. You can never have enough. So I have them taking Rome Odunze, wide receiver out of Washington. And then to round out the top 10, the New York Jets have a lot of needs. One of them was defensive back, looking at best options available for what their needs were. So I have them taking Cooper DeJean, cornerback out of Iowa. So that rounds out my top 10, just to kind of repeat. Number 1, Caleb Williams. Number 2, Drake May. 3, Jaden Daniels. 4, Marvin Harrison Jr. 5, Malik Neighbors. 6, J.J. McCarthy. 7, Joe Alt. 8, Quinyon Mitchell. 9, Rome Odunze. And 10, Cooper DeJean.
I like it. I'm here for it. I like it not just because basically, I mean, you had flip flopped. I do like Jaden Daniels going to the Patriots. If he doesn't end up going to Washington, I think he does go to Washington. And then you're probably right, Marvin.
I mean, a new coaching system within New England. Might be time to have a different style of quarterback.
Hey, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. And then I like Cooper DeJean going there at 10. I did see a lot of mock drafts taking an offensive lineman there. Brock Bowers will be interesting to see if he ends up there. So like I said, it's a fun draft because not only do you have all the talent that you have, but you also have like a lot of things that could happen. A lot, and so
I think outside of the top 4, unless any moves are made for quarterbacks, outside of the top 4, it could be honestly anybody. Right. I mean, some of these tackles could go extremely high. I mean, it's just kind of all over the board. Guys are rising and falling. Just, it's crazy. I mean, look, the tackle from Penn State. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name because I know I'm going to butcher it. Everybody knows who I'm talking about. He was at one point considered the number 1 offensive tackle in this draft. Another point, J.C. Latham was considered one of the top tackles. Now all these guys are falling because people aren't looking for that. And it's crazy to think that, I mean, honestly, I think the Colts are sitting very nicely at 15. There is going to be a wide variety of players available, and I don't think they could go wrong with really any of them. Well, maybe a couple of them, but we went over that last week. But honestly, if you want to go offensive line, great. If you want to go edge, there's a couple there. If you want to go wide receiver, there's options. Corner, I think the Colts are going to be sitting pretty if they want a cornerback. Man, it's going to be a fun first round, and I am expecting a lot of trades to happen. I do think that's going to be, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Chicago being somebody that works with another team a team that wants to move up into the top 10, and Chicago gain a little bit more draft capital.
Yeah, I think that's a possibility too. Because I know it's a good situation that they only have a few picks because they have them so high, but they might want to add to that as well as being in the middle of the rebuild. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really excited for Thursday. But that will do it for this week's edition of the Crash Course Podcast. Thank you guys all for hanging out. Remember that you can like us on Facebook, 3C Media. Go follow us over on X at 3C Media Sports. Follow us over on TikTok, TikTok is still a thing, on 3C Media. Go check out the YouTube channel. A lot of good feedback from you guys on the Caitlin Clark video, on the Colts draft video last week. So we appreciate all your support there. Go like, subscribe, ring the bell. If you're on YouTube, come over to the podcast app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever podcasts can be heard. You can hear the Crash Course Podcast. You can find me at Crash Course FM on X. Where can they find you, B. Scott?
You can find me on Twitter at Brandon_Scott87. I'm going to be old man yelling at cloud. Will always be Twitter to me.
I mean, I'm trying to not say it, but yeah, it'll always be Twitter to me too. But yeah, that will do it this week. Next week, we'll be recapping the draft and giving out our Offensive Rookie of the Year predictions, all that fun stuff. But until then, enjoy the draft, everybody.